Idaho is pretty dang awesome, but there are some huge cons that you need to consider before relocating, or you're seriously going to regret your move.
I immediately regret this decision.
If you don't like the creepy crawlies, then you're going to have a hard time in Idaho, because we've got them.
What? They bite low and hard.
If they aren't trying to sting you or bite you, then they're just plain annoying. I mean, we've got them all, and the most prevalent that you're going to run into when you're in the Boise area and Idaho in general, and this is one that a lot of my new relocation clients have been like, what the heck is going on? Because they come here and they're getting stung by them, and it's going to be wasps. The most common in the area are going to be wasps, but there are several variations that we have, and I'd like to say that you're not going to get stung, except I'd be lying. If you're going to be outdoors in your backyard, whether you're mowing the lawn or weed eating or just hanging out or gardening, you're going to get stung. Everybody I know has gotten stung. I got stung several times this year, and I'm not even a gardener. It's just being outside. They're kind of everywhere. And it's really hard to keep them away from your property because they like to build nests in every single nook and cranny, whether it's under the deck or under a chair, in your barbecue, or in your fence, or up under the eaves of your house. They're just everywhere, and they are really pervasive. There's really no good or effective way that I've found that you can like keep them away besides just being proactive, looking for them. If they're starting to make a nest somewhere, then knock it down with either some water or a broom, or always carry a can of wasp spray at your property because it's always nice because you can spray it a long ways. They've got some yellow hornet traps that you can use. I don't know how effective they are. I've never personally used them. One thing, I don't know if it's true or not, but I do it anyways. If you hang dryer sheets or tuck dryer sheets around your property where the wasps like to hang out, apparently they don't like it, and so they won't build their nest around there. But try it if you want. I don't know if it actually works. I've just been told that it does. Now, if the bugs aren't trying to fly and bite you, they can definitely crawl and do the same. Yes, we have scorpions. However, they aren't super common, but we do have several species of spiders that you really don't want to deal with, like black widows and brown recluse spiders. And it's not something that I would get super crazy worried about. I mean, I think every house that I've lived in, I've found at least one black widow spider, except they don't necessarily come into the house. It's very rare to find them in the house. You'll see them maybe the garage or around the outside of the house on the edge or in the crawl space. But if you're doing annual pest control treatments where they come around and spray or do a fogger underneath your house, that's something that can easily prevent any issues with spiders. I get asked all the time about mosquitoes in the Boise area and mosquitoes in Idaho in general, and I wish I could give you a straight answer, but it's kind of going to depend. Since the Boise, Idaho area is kind of a high desert, we don't necessarily have a ton of mosquitoes, but that doesn't mean that you can't find them. Now, if you're around the Boise River, or if you're around ponds or lakes or stagnant water, you're definitely going to find mosquitoes and you're going to get eaten up by them. I, for instance, seem to never have an issue with mosquitoes. There's just something with me that they don't like. But if I go and stand in the Boise River and I'm fly fishing, even with a long sleeve shirt on and I've got my neck gaiter on and a whole hat, I will get eaten alive by the mosquitoes. But if I'm standing in my backyard, I can be out there just in my underwear and I'm not going to have any issues. So it's just really going to depend on if you're next to any stagnant water and if they're not taking care of the water or anything like that. Just swampy areas in general are going to have mosquitoes, but if you're away from them, you're not going to have any issues. And since we're talking about bloodsuckers, I can't leave out the ticks. If you're an outdoor person, you're definitely going to see ticks. If I'm walking around during the summertime through tall grass, or if I'm fishing on a riverbank or something like that, I'm definitely going to find ticks crawling on me and I can pick them off. I don't know a ton about the ticks, but I'm pretty sure they're just deer ticks because I've never actually had any burrow in on me. Now, that's not to say that I haven't had to pick them out of my dogs several times during the summer, but if you don't want to deal with them in your dogs or something like that, you can always get the flea collars or you can give them the tablets so they don't have any issues with it. It's not necessarily a deal breaker because we don't have Lyme disease in the area, but that's not to say that getting a tick just isn't fun. But again, if you're just hanging out in your backyard or if your kids are in your backyard playing in the grass and in the bushes, you're probably not going to have an issue with them. But if you decide to go play alligator hunter and run through the weeds in the grass in the field behind your place, you're probably going to pick up some ticks. Idaho has two types of bugs that show up by the billions in the summertime.
Billions and billions.
And hang around for a short period of time, and that's going to be Mormon crickets and flies. Now, the Mormon crickets aren't necessarily an issue if you're in the city, but if you go outside of town into the foothills or if you go into the Owyhees west of the valley, then you're definitely going to see them crawling around in the trillions. And when they're swarming on some of the roads, like going to Nevada, for instance, they get so thick on the road that cars slide off the road because it's like driving on ice. So if that just tells you how many bugs they are. But if you're a fisherman, and I shouldn't be telling you this because I'm giving away my secrets, but these things make phenomenal fish bait. But wear some gloves because they will try and bite you. Now, the flies seem to come out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, in August for a couple of weeks, and that's going to be the fly season. And it seems no matter where you are in the valley, no matter what you do to your property or inside your house or anything like that, you're going to have flies. You're going to open the door, you're going to have 50 flies fly inside your house, and there just seems to be nothing that you can do about them. And it's just plain annoying. Now, other than maybe the fly tape that's super tacky, you're kind of just going to have a fly swatter and deal with it for a while, and don't open your doors for very long. But like I said, it's only a couple weeks. It's not that bad. Did you think I was done with the creepy crawlies? Well, not yet, because snakes. Yep, we've got those in Idaho too. Now, we definitely don't have Florida Everglades snakes here, but we've definitely got them. And out of all the snakes in the area, really the only type that you're going to have any issue with, or not necessarily an issue, but have to look out for, is going to be the rattlesnakes. And it's not necessarily with people, more so like dogs. In the summer, if I'm going to go hiking in the foothills or in the Owyhees south of town or just out and around sagebrush, I tend to leave my dog at home just because I don't want to chance having any encounters with a rattlesnake, because dogs typically don't know better. Now, you can do some trainings, and they have trainings, but I just don't leave it for chance. If you're in town around the greenbelt or parks or stuff like that, you're probably not going to have any issues with the rattlesnakes, but you're probably going to see other types of snakes that don't pose any harm, like garden snakes or rat snakes. And like I said, they're not going to hurt you unless maybe you're a mouse. And it ain't just the small creepy critters that you got to watch out for, because they get a lot bigger and a lot hairier. We've got pretty much all of the large animals that will try to eat you in North America, from black bears to grizzly bears, wolves and mountain lions, badgers and coyotes, and so many more. Again, if you're hanging out in the city, you're really probably not going to have any issues with these guys, except we do have chance encounters at least a couple times a year where we'll have a mountain lion or a bear or a coyote or a bobcat wander into the edges of town, but it's not super common. Now, of course, you're in Idaho, so that probably means that you like to get outdoors in the wild, and it's definitely the big critters world, so you'll need protection. And some people like bear spray, but my version is much more effective. And this isn't exactly an off chance rare thing that happens that I'm just saying on the video to scare you. It happens several times throughout the year. I had a close call with a big mountain lion last year. We typically have at least 1 or 2 instances with a mountain lion getting too close to hikers or trying to attack somebody, or even grizzly bears on the eastern side of Idaho. So if that's something that you're really not ready to deal with when getting outdoors, then Idaho might not be the place for you. Idaho has some pretty extreme weather depending on where you go in the state. We get the dry 100-degree days in the summer, and then we get the freezing below 0-degree days in the winter. It gets dark and cloudy throughout the winter. Now, it's nothing like the Pacific Northwest Depression dark. However, since Idaho is so far north, our daylight hours will vary a lot throughout the year. In the summer in the Boise area, the sun will come up at 6 in the morning and it'll be light until 10 o'clock in the evening. But in the winter, the sun doesn't come up until really like 8 o'clock, and then it'll be dark by 5:30. So if you have a job where you're working indoors, it's entirely possible that you'll only get a peek at the sun on your lunch break, because it's dark when you go to work and dark on the drive home.
Holy moly. Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for! Dear God, it's beautiful.
And the same thing goes for schooling. For instance, when I was back going to school, I'd go to school early in the morning because I'd have wrestling practice in the morning before school. So I'd drive to school when it's dark, go to school throughout the day, maybe get a look at the sunlight throughout the window, and then I'd be in practice after school until late, and then I'd be driving home in the dark. So there would be several periods of time where I really didn't get to see the sun at all. Now, not only is it dark in the winter, but it's also damn cold.
Communities all across the state are gearing up for possible record low temperatures.
At the time I'm making this video, it's about a week after Thanksgiving, and we're already below freezing, well below freezing. Ponds are all frozen, and we are getting a snowstorm at the time of making this video. We've got like 3 inches of snow in the front yard, and we're even getting down to about single-digit temperatures during the night. And keep in mind, I'm in the Boise area. This is the warmest part of the snake, but the temperature variance throughout the state is pretty crazy. For instance, I was hunting in the middle of October at about 6,800 feet elevation, and I was waking up and it was -6 degrees in the morning. That was in the middle of October. And then I drive back down to here to the Boise area. I think we're about 3,500 feet elevation, and it was 60, 70 degrees almost. So the temperature variance over the whole entire state is pretty crazy. But on the flip side of that, it does get dang hot here in the summer. I mean, we're not like Arizona hot temperatures where you're hitting like 114, 115, or however hot it gets in there. We're getting to like maybe like 100, 102, 103, 104 for a couple weeks during the summer, but it's going to vary. 2 years ago, we had 30 days over 100 degrees. We set the record. And then this year, we had like 2 days over 100 degrees. So it really varies quite a bit. But for me, it's still too dang hot during the summer.
It's so damn hot.
Boise is pretty isolated. Now, we do have a big metropolitan here in the area, but other than that, like if you want to go to another big city or something like that, we've got Salt Lake to the south, and that's about a 6-hour drive, maybe 5 if you got a lead foot. And then I don't even know how far you would have to go into Oregon to hit the next major city. So other than anything in the Boise area, it's pretty isolated. So if you're the kind of person that likes to go from big city to big city to big city, but you might not like it because of how isolated it is. Idaho is really red. Now, if you watch the news or documentaries, it'll try and paint Idaho as an ultra-conservative, white supremacist state, which isn't accurate, but it is one of the most conservative states in the nation. Many of the newer residents are moving to Idaho because they feel heard and align more with the values of Idaho's politics, so it's only getting even more red. And of course, with that are going to be huge points for discussion like law enforcement, Second Amendment, and abortion, which is one of the most recent things that has stirred many people away from Idaho. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, Idaho outlawed abortions, so many of its citizens do support this. It's no secret that Idahoans love their guns. Idaho has the third highest gun ownership rate at just over 60%, and some of the most lenient gun laws in the entire country. This is a huge part of life for many, and if you have any reservations against it, then you won't like it because you really can't get away from it here. There are a ton of people here who carry, and it's not uncommon at all to see it. I was on my way to the mountains to go elk hunting this year, and I needed to stop by Costco to pick up a few groceries, so I ran inside Costco. Didn't even realize it, and I had my 44 strapped to my hip, and I didn't have any issues with that, and I didn't get anybody harassing me with it. Our biggest event center, the Idaho Center, even has gun shows every single month, and people can come and go with their firearms if they are selling or buying them, and nobody even bats an eye towards it. According to many studies, Idaho isn't exactly a diverse state, which can be a big turnoff for some people who are looking to relocate here, as it has an 86.5% Caucasian population. However, that's a really skin-deep look at the demographics of the state. If you look at different counties, for instance, it tells a different story. Taking Canyon and Owyhee County into account, which are two of the biggest counties near Boise, they have a 25.6% and a 24.5% Hispanic or Latino population. And one of the more diverse counties, Jerome County, has a 37.9% Hispanic or Latino population. There isn't exactly a ton going on in Idaho, and for many, they just can't stand it. I mean, yes, we have shopping at the Village and bowling along with just getting Topgolf, but if you're looking for constant entertainment throughout the week and the weekend, you're just not going to find it here. Living in Idaho, you kind of have to be creative with what you want to do, whether it be hiking in the foothills or the mountains somewhere or having a bonfire down by the river. Don't get me wrong, if you're like myself, you're going to run out of gear before you run out of things to do in Idaho, but all of those things are going to revolve around either getting a good set of hiking boots, getting a fishing pole or a camera or a gun, and going outdoors and chasing just a little bit of adrenaline, getting some mosquito bites, and getting covered in mud.
I'm going on an adventure!
Public transportation always seems to be something that comes up when the topic of moving to Boise comes up. And if you're coming from a pretty populated area, you're probably pretty used to using either a taxi or a cab or an Uber or Lyft or bus or some form of public transportation. But as a general statement, Idaho doesn't have any public transportation. Now, there's a couple of buses that run around the valley, but they really don't run enough routes or take you far enough to make it even worth your time. Now, there's probably some Ubers and some Lyfts in the area, but I've, for one, never even used one in the area, and they're really not that prevalent. So having a car or your own means of transportation in the Boise area living here is kind of a non-negotiable because you're commuting such long distances that you can't really do without it. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in some areas, like maybe on the Boise State University campus or in the north end of Boise somewhere, you probably could get away with only having a bicycle and doing all the commuting and shopping between home and work and the store that you need. But riding a bicycle in the wintertime in the slush doesn't exactly sound terrific to me. Nightlife, or more like nights not alive. Because there isn't hardly any night scene at all in the Boise area. So if you're looking to go out and get some drinks and dance and just party until the sun come up, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Now, there are some clubs in downtown Boise that stay open, but I think they only stay open till like 2 a.m. possibly. So other than that, you're really not going to have anything. Now, if you want to go to like a cowboy bar or something like that, we've got a lot of those in pretty much every single town, and you can go have drinks and play pool. And something about cowboy bars, I don't know what it is, but they always have the best burgers, finger steaks, and chicken wings. Other than that, not much nightlife. As far as jobs go in the Boise area, this is something that I've seen misrepresented online, so I want to shed some light on it. Now, in the most recent years, our tech industry and our healthcare industry has been the number one growing industries, and the tech industry is probably going to keep exploding as there are a lot of businesses coming into the Boise area. Now, that's not necessarily the biggest business in the area. We have a huge construction scene, and I guess it's probably hard to tally up, which is why online reflections aren't going to say it, because there are so many independent contractors, small businesses that work along those lines in the skilled trade and labor sector that it's probably hard to quantify, but we have a huge need for skilled labor. Like, we just redid our kitchen. It took us over a year because we couldn't get a cabinet guy, we couldn't get a plumber or anything like that, electrician. So if you're in any of those kinds of jobs in fields, there is a huge demand for that here, and there's some serious potential to do really well for yourself if you want to open up your own company or if you just want to stay as a one-man band. Did I scare you away from Idaho? There's probably some things that I said that did stir the pot with you a little bit, or did I make you love Idaho even more? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you like this video, you're definitely going to want to give this one a look. And until next time, I'm Isaac Crace with Top Idaho Real Estate, your third generation Idaho Realtor.